Welcome to DEFCON 3. I'm KT McFarland. Iraq's former Prime Minister, Nouri Al-Maliki, is on the hot seat. Maliki might face criminal charges over his role in the fall of Mosul to the Islamic State ISIS militants after the investigation found him responsible. Now, the fall of Mosul is seen as the key moment in ISIS's rise to power in the entire region. Joining us to discuss is former Green Beret officer Benjamin Collins. Ben, thank you very much for joining us. So is there anything to this charge?
Well, I think of course, right? I mean, at the end of the day, the leaders are responsible for what their men do or fail to do. Now, I think it's a little bit disingenuous because the problem isn't so much Maliki, it's the entire Baghdad government. So, and certainly when we look at the Iraqi army, to me, it's just mostly representative as a failed organization trying to protect a failed state. So I think right now what they're facing are a lot of protests from the people saying, look, we can't have our power on, water, so just regular services, and the people are angry and they're looking for somebody to blame, and like most governments, they're going to find somebody to take the heat. Okay,
so they're going against the former Prime Minister Maliki, but it was the 30,000-man Iraqi army which refused to defend Mosul. Are they going after the generals too?
They are going after the generals, and they should go after Maliki as well. But to be honest, they're going to have to go after the entirety of the Baghdad government, in my opinion. One of the largest problems that we face is it wasn't really 30,000. So they have something right now, a serious problem called ghost soldiers, where soldiers are effectively paying half of their salaries to their officers and then not show up for work. So the Mosul brigade, the first brigade that was responsible for their frontline efforts, was supposed to be somewhere around the tune of 2,500 soldiers. But in reality on that day, there were only about 500 actual soldiers that were sitting there. So corruption is rampant. It's rife within the entirety of the government. So to say Maliki is responsible, sure, he is responsible. So are the generals, and so is the entire system in its place. Never mind the sectarian issues that they're facing.
You know, Iran has a close relationship with the new Iraq government. Where are they in all this? Do they want to go after Maliki?
No, so in fact, Tehran just told Baghdad that if they go ahead and they actually file criminal charges and try Maliki for this, that they're going to turn their militias against Baghdad. So, I mean,
explain for a minute, who are the Shiite militias, and what is the role they're playing in Iraq, and who controls them?
Certainly. So the Shia militias are essentially Iraq, or they're Iranian military that are militias that are there. They're helping to train, and they're also fighting alongside the Iraqi army. Now, what effectively happened when Maliki took over, he kicked out the Kurds, he kicked out the Sunnis out of the military, and he installed a mostly Shia army. And invited their new best friends, the Iranians, to come over, which includes, by the way, those Republican Guard and those that were trained by Mr. Soleimani, who's been in the news of late, which presents a massive problem that they're going to face as they even consider going into Mosul. Mosul's the capital of essentially Sunni Iraq. I mean, you're talking about 1 million people, 65 to 75% Sunni. So that's one of the big concerns right now, is that if that Shia militia, and they're really the Iranians that have been there helping to fight, are probably, unfortunately, the most effective force that they have. If they actually do go in, what's going to happen? There could be some serious reprisals that take care of the Sunnis. So really, we're sitting on a powder keg of sectarian...
everybody fighting everybody else.
Exactly.
A year ago, I met with the Iraqi president, that's the #2 guy, his name is Fuad Massoum. He said that ISIS was born in the prisons of Baghdad, that ISIS is really the former Iraqi military generals, the Ba'athist generals, who hooked up with the religious extremists who were also in jail. The two of them get out of jail, and then they form this very sophisticated military operation which is known as ISIS.
And unfortunately, that's one of the unintended consequences of the de-Baathification, right? So, I mean, if you remember how proudly we were walking around with those playing cards saying we're chasing the Jack of Spades and the Queen of Hearts, etc. And all we essentially did was drive the most professional and the most experienced officer corps within the Iraqi army right into the hands of the insurgency. And yes, those that had also been jailed, and then during Maliki's time, but yes, they effectively linked up with Al-Qaeda in Iraq and created this new organization that became ISIS.
Sounds like everybody fighting everybody else, and they're constantly changing sides. Well, Benjamin Collins, thanks so much, and check out foxnews.com for more on this developing story. I'm KT McFarland, and thanks for watching DEFCON 3.